With James Gunn's Superman hitting theaters this summer, there's no better time than now to hop onto the DC Studios Showcase podcast. This is a show for all levels. If you're a casual or a new fan to the world of DC, or if you're a lifelong fan going back years, there's something for everybody. The show will bring exclusive insights and inside access you won't find anywhere else while covering the latest news from DC Studios, hosted by Frankie Smith and Tyler Coates, and they're joined by comic correspondent Coy Jandreau. Join them as they deconstruct the latest and greatest from the world of DC. They've already had big guests on, like Lauren LeFranc, the showrunner from The Penguin, Sean Gunn from Creature Commandos, and you can expect more from the cast and crew behind the upcoming Superman film. New episodes drop every other Friday on the Max YouTube channel. You've got to check out the DC Studios podcast. I will leave a link down in the description. During the climax of the Majin Buu saga, Goku is able to finally, after a long and grueling battle, put away Majin Buu with the Genki Dama, also known as the Spirit Bomb. But it wasn't just any old Spirit Bomb. This version, this Super Genki Dama, was composed of the energy not just of Goku's allies, both present and those of the past, but also the energy of the Earthlings. All of them, due in part to the support of Mr. Satan, their hero, telling them to raise their arms up and give a little bit of their Genki to help defeat this threat to the entire universe. One of the more frequently asked questions that I've seen pop up from time to time is, was the Spirit Bomb, was the Genki Dama the only way to have finished off Kid Buu? Or was there another way? I think this mostly comes from the fans interpreting the Genki Dama technique itself as being one that's composed of pure health energy, Genki, which it is, and the fact that Majin Buu was pure evil. Now, we've seen the Genki Dama used, not including the Dragon Ball Z movies, we've seen it used on people like Vegeta and Frieza, and both of them, while being hurt, survived. And at the times they were both the victims of the Genki Dama, both of them were pretty evil, especially Frieza. He was a league above Vegeta when it came to being just an evil, sociopathic bastard, and yet he still survived. I'm gonna explain all of that for you today as we go through the Genki Dama's power against Kid Buu and what made it so potent this time around and why there was nothing that Kid Buu could have done to block it. But first, I want to address the first question, which is, was this the only way to defeat Kid Buu? And the answer is no. At least 3 other times in Dragon Ball Z, we've seen Majin Buu come very close to being defeated and completely eradicated using techniques that were not the Genki Dama. And no, I'm not talking about Vegeta's sacrifice, even though I think a lot of folks will assume that maybe if Vegeta was a bit stronger, he would have been able to pull it off. And you know what? That's possible, but that version of Vegeta didn't get the job done. I'm talking about later on when there were more powerful versions of Majin Buu besides the original Fat Buu that were almost killed. The issue with defeating Majin Buu has always been his unbelievable stamina. Perhaps more than any other villain back then or even now in the Dragon Ball Super era, he can take punishment and keep coming. Not just because of his incredible stamina, but because of his unbelievable regeneration ability. Majin Buu's regeneration is light years ahead of Piccolo's or Cell's because his is based in magic, and his body itself, the way his body is even structured, obviously with a demonic magical flair to it, it can do things that regular mortals can't really do. Like I said, Majin Buu is a demon, which means that he counts in the god hierarchy. Although he's not a god like a Beerus or a Whis, he's still a demon, and thus they have access to moves that are above the understanding of mortal bodies, and his version of regeneration certainly is that. And I think a lot of fans have theorized that specifically Kid Buu, because he is the pure evil version of Buu, was also the hardest to kill because many fans have theorized that he knew how to use regeneration better than any of the other versions of Buu because it was almost like second nature to him. It was not something he had to learn to do. He just knew how to do it because it's like you and I breathing or eating. It's just something that we just know how to do. Almost to the point where it's involuntary. Now, the 2 times that I mentioned where Majin Buu was almost killed without using the Genki Dama was during the earlier parts of Dragon Ball Z's Buu Saga, specifically when Gotenks was fighting Super Buu. When that fight went on, there was a moment where he was able to disintegrate Majin Buu to where all that was left was smoke. And then we literally witnessed he and Piccolo trying to snuff out the remainder of Buu, but yet he still was able to regenerate. But that's not even the moment I'm talking about. At the very end, Majin Buu, after taking a thrashing from Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, he's about to become the victim of a Kamehameha until, of course, Gotenks would defuse, preventing Majin Buu from being destroyed in that moment. But the way it was drawn in the manga and the way that it was sort of given to us in the anime really makes me believe that Toriyama purposely teased this being a situation where Majin Buu was on the ropes and that a powerful enough blast from Gotenks would have probably done the trick. I mean, let's not forget that Goku himself, who taught Goten and Trunks the fusion pose from the Metamorans, he was the one that from the very start thought that Gotenks had the best chance of winning, and that's before he even saw the fusion happen, only because he has so much of a deeper knowledge and understanding of fusion that he thought that could do it. Then again, maybe he was overstating Gotenks' power or underestimating Majin Buu's stamina, and plus, when he first trained Goten and Trunks on how to do fusion, he was still the fat Majin Buu, and thus Super Buu is obviously stronger. Yes, there was one filler episode of DBZ where Gotenks in base form fought Fat Buu, and it was a fun episode, but in that fight, Gotenks got thrashed. But that was only in the anime. The first time they had ever met in the manga was in the Room of Spirit and Time, and by then Super Buu was the version of Buu that was out there. So Goku could not have predicted that being a problem. Nevertheless, though, it really does appear like Buu was history at this point. Then, of course, Ultimate Gohan came out, who was revealed to be even stronger than Gotenks. So, had that fight continued, Gohan would have probably won. But, of course, Majin Buu, being the clever bastard that he was, pretended to blow himself up and disappear for a while until he was able to catch them off guard and absorb Gotenks and even the odds against Gohan. Now, the second time that it was teased, and not even just teased, outright shown to us that Buu could have been killed using powers that were not the Spirit Bomb, was when Vegito fought Majin Buu. By this point, Majin Buu had become Buuhan and had access to a nearly unlimited level of power, and yet Vegito, the strongest fusion at the time and the strongest character in the original Dragon Ball manga and in DBZ, before GT, before Super and all of the current stuff, Vegito embarrassed and humiliated Majin Buu throughout the entire fight to goad him into absorbing him. But there's one moment in the fight where Vegito straight up, without even powering up, without even thinking twice, is able to disintegrate a piece of Majin Buu's body right in front of him and taunt him with it by showing him that at any point Vegito could have completely destroyed Majin Buu using a number of different techniques, including just basic ki, because of how strong Vegito was. Super Vegito was an absolute animal because it wasn't just that he destroyed any old villain. We're talking about a character that has magical regeneration abilities, and Vegito was able to destroy him at a subatomic level. This was way beyond what Gotenks could have done. So to me, that's enough evidence to show me that Majin Buu could have been killed without using the Genki Dama in Dragon Ball Z, just by having that much of a difference in power. The reason why the Genki Dama was even chosen by Vegeta, because it was his idea, is because A, Goku was almost out of power after powering up to Super Saiyan 3 and being unable to utilize the form because his body fell apart. And at that point, both of them were in deep danger. So it was his choice. But the reasons why it was so effective is because A, it was a super Genki Dama, even bigger than the one on Namek or on Earth or at any other point. And it was the most potent Genki Dama up until that point because it had so much Genki from the people of Earth and many others. So that high amount of energy that Goku could use while still being physically exhausted was the best answer. The reason as to why the Spirit Bomb worked better against pure evil Buu than Frieza or Vegeta is because of the God hierarchy. Remember, the Genki Dama is a technique that Goku learned from the North Kaio-sama, who's also a god. The Genki Dama is a godly technique, just like Hakai and just like Ultra Instinct. And with Majin Buu being a demon, the other side of the coin, one could easily come to the conclusion that the Spirit Bomb's potent health energy was the key to defeating Buu. Plus, Buu was absolutely composed of pure evil, whereas Frieza and Vegeta, despite being pretty damn evil, were biologically different, and thus the Genki Dama had much more of an effect on Kid Buu. Think about it. It's like using God Ki against another god, or God Ki against a demon. It's going to be more potent. And besides just that, Toriyama wrote it because it's a very poetic ending to Dragon Ball, because for once the humans helped save themselves.